This episode of the Matt Feret Show is brought to you by the Brickhouse Agency. Brickhouse is a boutique independent health insurance agency that focuses on finding the right Medicare coverage for folks across the country. Matt's wife, Nikki, is the heart behind Brickhouse. She's great at making confusing things clear and is passionate about helping people find a Medicare insurance policy that suits their individual needs. To schedule a free one-on-one appointment with Nikki or a member of her team, head on over to brickhouseagency.com or simply call 844-844-6565 and someone will help you schedule a phone call or a Zoom meeting. The consultation is free because the insurance companies pay Brickhouse, not you. There's never any pressure or obligation to enroll. Your clearer, simpler Medicare journey is just a call or click away. brickhouseagency.com. Not affiliated with or endorsed by the government or federal Medicare program. Contacting Brickhouse Agency, LLC will direct you to a licensed insurance agent.
Hello, everyone. This is Matt Feret, author of Prepare for Medicare and Prepare for Social Security Insiders Guidebooks and online course training series. Welcome to another episode of the Matt Feret Show, where I interview insiders and experts to help light a path to successful living in midlife, retirement, and beyond. Welcome to the Matt Feret Show, practical conversations to help you thrive in midlife, retirement, and beyond. I'm Matt Feret, author of books and courses on Medicare and Social Security, and a former healthcare executive with decades of insider experience. I use that experience to help people make clearer, smarter decisions about health, wealth, lifestyle, and caregiving. Each week, I sit down with experts, insiders, and fascinating people to explore what it really takes to thrive, finding purpose, building stronger relationships, and creating a sense of meaning and community in the second half of life. Together, we'll light the path towards your wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Welcome to the conversation. Hey everybody, my guest today works at the intersection of aging, independence, and the place most of us want to stay for as long as possible, home. She's the founder of Harmony Home Medical in San Diego, and her work focuses on helping people live safely, comfortably, and with dignity in their own homes as they age or face mobility challenges. She specializes in home accessibility, mobility solutions, and aging in place, everything from simple safety modifications to more advanced medical equipment, with the goal of making homes work with people, not against them. She's been a guest on podcasts focusing on caregiving, downsizing, and home design, where she talks about fall prevention, dementia-friendly environments, and how to make homes safer without making them feel clinical or institutional. So if you've ever worried about a parent falling or struggling to care for someone at home right now, or wondered how long a house will realistically work as needs change, this conversation is for you. My guest today is Erica Sell, founder of Harmony Home Medical. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited you're going to be here. So for people meeting you and hearing about you for the first time, tell everybody what you do and how long you've been doing it and what led you into this world of home accessibility and mobility and aging in place.
Yeah. So you said it well. I help people find the right products and equipment to help them age in place. And about 5 years into that journey, we added in the layer of home modifications and accessibility because it kept being asked. Um, and so I just said yes, and began to go down that path with contractors and getting my certifications for um, aging in place specialists and so forth. So, yeah, I opened my showroom in 2008, a tiny little showroom, and now we have two really big ones. But the intention behind Harmony from the very beginning was catering to the end user and their families, not the third party payer. So we carried the products that people want and need, not the ones that Medicare reimburses for. And we educate, educate, educate. It's a showroom. It's a touch and feel kind of model that we created. And sometimes people call us the Toys R Us for the aging adult. And we help people navigate what products and modifications exist in a safe space. Because before we had our store, at least in San Diego, a lot of those sales were done in kind of like a hard sale fashion, where someone comes to your home and it's kind of an intense salesperson or sales process. And for our clients, it's not really the method of sales that's best for them. They already have a lot of decisions and a lot of stress going on. So high pressure sales setting isn't optimal. I think it's better if people can feel like they're getting educated on options and kind of come to the safe space of the store, and then we go out to their home and do the assessment. If they like that process, we have it available.
When you were talking there, I'm not of the age, fortunately, that I have to think about this yet. Or maybe I am, and you'll tell me I do need to be thinking about this. But I guess when you were saying, I didn't really realize there were high pressure sales tactics for stuff like this. Now, my
Yeah.
Medicare background and Medicare sales background, I know that there are a lot of regs against high pressure sales tactics in that space, but you still get the one or two bad apples every year that are not doing things the right way. Is it the same in your industry?
Well, it's not regulated by Medicare for those categories we're talking about. So, walk in tubs, shower modifications, stair lifts, those big ticket equipment or modification items were generally high pressure sales, especially the walk in tub industry. And so those are the products that we installed inside of our store for people to come see, even ride on stair lifts and experience. We even had the vertical platform elevator for a while. We don't have that now, uh, in the store, but we still have the stair lifts and the showers and tubs for people to experience them in that setting, kinda understand what they are. So before that, then it was just high pressure sales, and there's no Medicare reimbursement for any of that, so it doesn't relate to those guidelines.
Got it. So I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize that there's an entire profession or an entire industry built around helping homes adapt as people age. However, when I say that, and you were saying what you were saying, I now I remember TV commercials. If I'm watching an old rerun on Me TV, like I've seen those walk-in tubs, and I've seen the whole
Yes.
right sit on something that takes you up your stairs. So if
Yes.
that's what I hear in my head when you're talking home medical equipment, when someone else hears about it, what do you wish they understood like right away?
Oh, that's a layered question. There's so many things. So one is that it's a multi-pronged process. So we do medical equipment, but each piece of equipment or phase of your mobility and your home setup, your home accessibility relates to each other. And that's something that people who just focus on one product category miss. And they can really cause some damage for people, and sometimes even the Medicare warehouse type DME providers also can miss, because we have a person who has individual needs and individual body makeup. And so we want to look at how the products can meet their needs, but then if you got them, say, that wheelchair, then what are the other products that they may need or will need as a result, like threshold ramps or safe entry and exit of the home, given they have a wheeled device. Or if they're having difficulty with the stairs and they call out just a stair lift provider who doesn't do any of the other aspects, what if they get a stair lift put in, but then 1 year later realize that they have a tub in their upstairs bathroom and they can't afford to remodel that one for a roll in, but they have a walk in one downstairs with their guest bedroom. So they're going to decide to live downstairs. There's kind of this whole life cycle of setting your home up and yourself up for accessibility that you wanna consider now and forever, in what the different, ways to do that between your house and equipment look like. And a lot of providers don't look at that full spectrum. So I see people do double work or double purchases that they may have avoided if they would have looked at the full picture and out the gate.
Got it.
That makes sense. So
Um,
I do not
no, it does
explain
make
that to
sense.
people, write out the, the one thing that I want them to know, but I hate to see people have to repurchase product and redo bathrooms, and I see it often.
Makes sense. So you've got like what you're saying is, I guess I'll put it in pseudo business terms, single source providers, somebody that just does walk-in tubs. Well, they may or may not be looking at step up, step down to the bathroom or where that bathroom is. So yes, they're
Mhm.
filling the stated need, which is fix mom's tub upstairs. Check, but they're not looking at how does mom get upstairs?
Yeah.
Is there really slick tile that needs to be replaced into some sort of tile that has a bit of um, granularity to it so mom won't slip, or handrails, right? Maybe there are in the tub, but getting from the sink to the tub might have, is that what you're saying? That there's a single
A-
source, but then there's a holistic
Absolutely.
view that needs to be taken into consideration?
Absolutely. Like a good example, I had a client who did a curved stair lift, and curved stair lifts are very expensive. They're all custom CAD drawn to match your stair curve because no two curves are the same. So we're talking, 15 to as much as $22,000.
Whoa.
And they did that, and then a couple years later couldn't get into their tub in the upstairs bathroom, and they're like, "Wow, I wish that I would have had someone lay out the expense of this full project because I would have just remodeled my downstairs bath and made my, guest bathroom downstairs bigger and used my downstairs bedroom." Like, they would have done a downstairs remodel because now they had already spent 20 grand on their stairs, and now they're gonna need to do another 20 grand in their bathroom. And they could have just done maybe 25 and had a one single floor living setup. So that's one example of times where we come in and people are like, "Man, I wish I would have known the full picture."
Makes sense, and it does. It makes sense to think of that more holistically. So I guess, I have to assume that most people assume they'll just figure it out if they need help at home later. I think, people have heard, if you can, be on all one level, right? Don't have upstairs, don't have narrow stairs. I mean, those kind of, aging in place, aging in home 101 things. But from what
Yeah.
you see every day, what actually makes aging in place harder than people expect?
Not preparing for it. So, not thinking about it early on, even at our age now, because statistically, we remodel our home somewhere in our home every 7 to 10 years. If we're staying in our home, like we'll do a bathroom or a kitchen. Um, and so when we're doing that, say we're gonna do our bathroom in our 50s and then might be our kitchen our 60s, like that might be the last time we remodel if it was a perfect world. So I think it's good to think about these plans early and remodel with that in mind way ahead of the game. So that can help. And then planning financially, to be able to buy a lot of the stuff in the equipment world that is the nicer items. So one of my favorite products is the high-low adjustable bed. It's a hospital bed, does all the features of a bed in the hospital, but it's beautiful. It looks like your regular bed. That's not covered by Medicare, but it can add a lot of comfort and aesthetic and not that hospital feel to your house. So you have to kind of budget for these things and have your financial life set up, maybe long-term care planning or just funds aside that that this general game plan you've laid out is going to cost you somewhere between, let's say, 20 to 50,000 lifetime, all of it.
Whew. Yeah.
But that's a lot less than leaving at the age you needed it, say 75, and you're gonna live to 95. It's a whole lot less than paying for assisted living fees from that point on. It's a much lower cost and better outcome to stay at home as long as factors like socialization and then dementia care, um, don't come into play where a facility is better or a senior living setting is better, if you're really gonna be able to get the socialization piece and you're not getting it living in your own home. So, but cost of care and sometimes quality of life or just feeling good, usually is at home is where most people wanna do that.
When do families usually call you? Early and proactive or in the middle of a crisis?
Yeah, probably 60-40 on the crisis side. So probably more often they're calling when they need something now and they are in crisis state or they're doing minimal amount necessary, um, a little more than half of the time. And then there is a cohort and it's been growing too. That number used to be more like 80-20. So now it's more like 60-40, and 40% of people are looking ahead to these things, having us do home assessments and just getting that knowledge and not necessarily taking action now. Um, I had a lot of people do that last year. People who probably should begin to take action, but people who were in their late 60s, I'd say late 60s, early 70s, who are still super active and part of their community, and they learned about us through their senior center. And we do home assessments and lay out game plans for them, and then they can take it on as needed. There was a good uptick in that because these conversations are happening more often and people are more aware.
Huh. Your answer surprised me. But I'm glad to hear it. I thought it was going to be the 80-20, 80% crisis. I'm glad to hear that though.
Yeah.
Um, I guess my personal biases are flowing in here of conversations I've had with people around me and what I've heard from friends, with older parents as well that are kind of like some of them are, you know, yeah, dad's 86. Um, has no plans on doing anything, and just like if it happens, well, we'll deal with it then.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear it's actually moving in a different direction when this happens. And I want to touch on home assessments because I think that's I think that's an awesome thing because it allows someone to go into their home and go, all right, here's what you're looking at, which again, I would guess most people don't do. They just like, put the washer and dryer upstairs. Cool. That may not do it all. What are the most common safety issues you see that people tend to overlook because they feel minor or harmless at first?
Small stairs. So I've seen that quite often where they'll disregard like a one or two step and figure it'll be fine. But then when that day comes, they've considered their second story and they've considered their large steps. I had this twice last year where the whole layout of the house didn't work and had to be changed because they thought that this two steps wouldn't be a problem. But then the spouse ended up being wheelchair bound in a major way with I think she had a stroke. And it was just two little steps in a split level home that changed everything. And there wasn't a very good solution for a lift. There was no room for ramping. It was like a full change, construction, like rearrange the front of the house in a big way, or um, relegate to going through the backyard all the way through the front of the house. That's what they ended up doing because it's such a large project for these two little steps. So small things, and I had that also happen for a client last year with um entryway. What was it? It was a straight stair lift they did, but right before the straight stair lift, they had two steps that would have made it have to be a curved. And the price difference between that curved and the straight is significant. So they skipped those two and so they could just handle that. But then came the time that they couldn't handle it, and it kinda rendered them unable to get to the other staircase. So, little things, like,
Interesting.
I see
Yeah,
people
little
take
things.
on
Yeah.
the big idea. I also see a lot of times people do a walk-in they'll remodel their tub, and this is not work we do because we won't allow it, but then they'll put in an accessible shower of 4 inches, or they'll go real accessible and get it to 3. That's not accessible. And I've had multiple people come in and they're trying to do ramps and figure it out because that little bit of a lip that they could just get over before, they can't now. And it's not always with wheelchairs being the situation. It can be just neuropathy. And even that 3-inch lip is too much now. So I see people make an effort and kind of have a game plan, but they assume that they'll never get to that next level where they should plan right out the gate to make their home functional no matter the level. And oftentimes, when you start with that view, it's less expensive to make those changes because you make them once and they cost a little bit more once, but they last forever. And that's kind of what I meant when we remodel our homes now in our 50s and our 60s. It's like I did my upstairs bathroom for accessibility because I know how to do it, and it doesn't cost me anymore than, maybe 500 more in plumbing for a linear drain than doing it the other way. And it's aesthetically, it's beautiful. Like it's in hotels. Europe has had the wet room for decades. So if you do it now, it doesn't need to look accessible, but it's getting the job done in case we never want to do it again.
Yep, I want to get into that aesthetic piece as well because I'm sure you get this all the time, and in my head, right, I see the the grab bars in the public restrooms and go like, wait, are those the grab bars that are going to be in my house someday? And nobody wants
Yeah.
that.
No.
Um, but just go back just real quickly on the whole like getting ready to do this to make your house more accessible, and let's hit it right. Falls are one of the biggest fears people have as they age. It's also one of the highest percentages likelihood for anybody, I don't care what shape you're in, over the age of 60. And people, yeah,
Yeah.
they may have had a relative fall or their parents have fallen, but legitimately, and I don't have the stats up, and maybe if I can get them for the webpage I will, but I remember looking at this a couple of years ago, and falls, the propensity to fall over the age of 60 is almost exponential, and people don't really think about it until they start shuffling, or they, their muscle tone doesn't keep up with the way it used to.
Yeah.
So you can be in perfect, quote unquote perfect shape, or just slowing down a little bit, and those one or two steps, you're right, that's the falls I've heard about aren't tumbles down 12 flights of stairs. It is the I missed the last step.
Yeah.
And that's a big fear. What is it in your experience? Is that what usually causes falls? And
Um,
if so, how many of them actually are preventable with those small changes you were talking about?
yeah, we have a lot of preventable stories and a lot of unfortunate stories where they were dragging the feet with the quote that we get just for grab bars. And then, mom or dad had the fall that hospitalized them. So definitely the things we do can prevent the falls. Sometimes there are falls that are fairly random that are in the middle of the floor or somewhere, and it wouldn't have been all that preventable. And the thing about falls is that once someone has a fall, they're 80% likely to have it fall again. Like they're because it's not just the ability, but then there's a little bit of fear and recognition of falls, and kind of like anything in our brains, once we're familiar with it, that reticular activating system kicks in, and we see it more and we acknowledge it more. And so I think it's part of our brain, but it's also part of our mobility. Like we freeze up a little bit or get a little bit nervous about having a fall, so you're not moving as fluidly as before. So it's really important to try to prevent the first one if you can. And so a lot of the things, let me do the first area is bathroom, because 80% of the falls that happen in home happen in the bathroom. And there's so much in there, like grab bars, grab bars, grab bars. They're the new safety belts. I mean, like in cars before we actually wore seat belts, now everybody has them. Like my kids have grab bars. Everybody has them. And then colors and transitions from flooring. So if you're going to have a flooring transition, add some color to it. Don't have a brown to brown, like have a dark to a light, or have that transition cap, that piece between the carpet and the tile, have a color. Because as we age, it's harder to see light, or it's harder to see the same things with the same amount of light. We need more light to see the same things. So bright light and color distinctions can help with that. So those are some simple things to do. And of course, the higher coefficient tile, the higher friction coefficient tile, so you don't slip, is important. And those things can prevent a lot. And if people could do that early on and prevent that first fall, I think they could prevent having the multiple fall situation for longer. Once we have that fall, that fear kicks in.
That's fascinating. I've never heard nor read anything about that psychology after a fall, and that's fascinating to me. Do you have any? I mean, and I didn't know that either. If you have one, I mean, it makes sense when you say it, right? If you have one, that you're going to get a little jumpy. right? For the second one.
The number is really high. It's like it's 2/3 I said 80%, it's like with 2/3 is at 60 it's like between 60 and 80% more likely than the person who hadn't had the fall, same age, to fall again. So, and they talk about that, and they have some, gait training and different things through the, Fall Prevention Task Force here in San Diego. There's a group that does presentations on it. I used to be a presenter for them. And, there's a lot to the psychology of a fall, but if we stop it in the first place, that's the best outcome to do. And then afterwards, we can do equipment and environment and also a little bit of therapy.
A lot of your work obviously intersects with caregivers, so spouses or adult children or just family members who didn't plan on being caregivers. What
Yes.
do caregivers underestimate about caring for someone at home?
Well, the challenge that it can be. It's definitely a challenging task caring for someone at home. And I think that people who are caregivers, um, should be open to some of the equipment that can make their life easier. There's products, and a lot of times people shy away from the bigger ones, like the patient lifts. They don't want to use them. There's a type of patient lift called a sit to stand, and it keeps someone on their feet in an upright position versus hammocked. Because the regular patient lift, you're kind of hammocked and you're laid back. um, People are terrified of using them, but if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your loved one. So these products help prevent back injury and make transfer safer. So I would recommend them exploring sit to stands. The moment that transfer starts getting hard, when someone's holding on to you and you find yourself doing all the lifting of mom or dad or whoever your loved one is, um, it's really important to go to a transfer training class. We do those or watch some of our stuff on YouTube about how to do your body mechanics. But then when it's getting to the point where they're really pulling on you, getting a patient lift system is priceless. And so there's ones that aren't as scary, like a sit to stand, and they can check that out. And then that bed that I was talking about, that high-low adjustable bed, be it the one that's really pretty or the more hospital one. Either way, getting the care level up to like waist high. So hospital beds tend to be down at 26 inches and the caregiver is still bending over. They have ones that go up to 33, and this is plus the mattress and on top of that. So the caregiver is really kind of staying more upright doing the care, not hurting their back, doing rolls and changes. And so there's product that can really make their jobs a little bit easier. And sometimes I think they feel resistant either for budget or also like, I've got this. I'm going to take care of mom and dad. I can do it. And they're not necessarily looking for the tools that make it a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, you've talked about that in other interviews I've seen and heard about a kind of a safer caregiver environment, but also calmer has to be part of this as well. I have to imagine, I mean, even if you're in the home helping mom, helping dad, and you got to go out for a little while. I mean, there have to be
Yeah.
some calming things that are installed in the home or that have processes in place to where you're not always thinking like, well, is dad taking a shower today?
Yes.
Is he gonna fall? Like, what does that actually look like in practice for the from the caregivers? Like, what are some of the things that the caregivers can have
Well,
in that environment that actually helps the caregiver, not only when they're there, but maybe when they're not there?
yeah, there's so much coming out in this portion of the industry. And so we are doing one that a monitoring system, a private, non-invasive monitoring system that uses these little it's little tiny sound waves, MMR rays, I believe it's called. Um, and it will tell you if a person where they're at in the room, if they've had a fall, notify you right away. It can start doing some habit tracking. Did mom or dad shower today? Did mom or dad get up off the bed? How much time in bed? And then it also measures heart rate and respiration without touching them. So these are some tools that you can use to know that they're doing their daily practices safely, that they're safe while you step out, that they're in bed. Maybe they're more tired or resting, but they are fine, and they're breathing and they're fine, and they're just sleeping longer today than normal. Those sort of things. The technology around this is growing and growing. The one that we use, is the privacy one because there's a lot that have two-way sound and video monitoring, but that it feels very invasive to a lot of the end users. So we prefer the model that we do where it doesn't do that, but there's a lot of options out there that can help patients with remote monitoring and remote caregiving. And now AI is coming into caregiving too. So there's even some of the socialization in entertainment type things, talking and doing games, kind of robot interactions, with the client. So a lot on the horizon in that world.
You've talked a lot about, and I want to hit this. And I said I was going to hit it, so I'm going to hit it. I'm sure you've heard, and I've even said, right? I don't want my house to look like a hospital or a long-term care
Yeah.
facility. How do you help people and families balance safety and function with style and comfort?
Yeah. Great question. Well, by seeking out some of the products that are needed that look nicer first. So, getting back to the bed and then the lift chair is another product that can just perform so much that are so beautiful now. Again, another product I have in my house. When they came out with the Easy Sleeper 2 years ago, I was like, this chair is gorgeous. Like, I just want it. Um, so there's that. There's products that can kind of conceal the medical nature when it comes to lifts, if it were someone needing to go that far with mobility assistance where they're full dependent and they need the lift, um, if someone wants to, we can integrate the rail into the ceiling and have a little small motor so there's nothing on the ground. There's no metal in your view right in the room, and you keep the motor up on the ceiling. With homes and accessibility, design is everything. There's so much you can do in design with tile, custom showers, even the prefabricated the Best Bath line. It's a wonderful prefab line if you need a quick remodel, a little bit more budget friendly. They have like glass tile inlays now on their fiberglass, and there's really pretty aesthetics for doing your bathroom. So that would never and nowadays, ever be an issue to have a hospital looking accessible bathroom. You can have a beautiful accessible bathroom. The areas where it's a little harder is the stairs. Like if you have an entryway into your home and you need a stair lift or a ramp or something, depending on, how committed you are to aesthetics and what you wanna do, you can do things with landscaping. You can bring in infill and dirt and grade your front entryway as opposed to put ramps and, lifts in your front entryway of your home. And then you can do lifts that are a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So we have, like, a glass elevator and we have rails that you can powder coat into different colors. It actually, like our last curved one was a rich kind of bronze, and so were the stairs. And it integrated and it looked as good as it could. It's still a lift you can see, but its color was really well integrated. So,
So you must see then over time that attitudes changing and the manufacturer's attitudes changing around this accessible design compared to even a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's changed so much over the last decade. Just the, like, conversation around it and the products that are out and available getting prettier, even in medical equipment too. So, like, colors, flashy design, and there's a lot of psychological barrier for a lot of people to use a medical device like a walker or a rollator, but not if they live in a senior community. Even a independent living one. Like we have villages, like in San Diego, we have Tier Santa Village, and those are all individual homes, but it's a group of seniors that get together. In those settings and in assisted living settings, it's like who has the coolest one, who has the nicest designed rollator, the nicest designed scooter, and actually in the powered mobility world, they're pretty sharp now. Carbon fiber, folding, 26 pounds, really small. So across the board, they're making the products nicer, more integrated, lighter.
Yeah, you just hit on it. Mobility equipment
Yeah.
can feel like a big emotional step for people for a
Yes.
number of reasons, right? The don't want to feel old, don't think I'm old, don't feel like I'm old. I'm
Yeah.
I'm 85, but I feel 45. When you I mean, I'm sure it's not just product and design, right? You must deal with, and your staff must deal with a whole host of people, where son or daughter has dragged mom along. Mom doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
But so how do you help someone or families know when it's time to consider things like walkers, which seem, I'm
Yeah.
not that old, or even lifts or adjustable beds or their bathroom without making it feel like a loss of independence or making them feel like you're old. Now you need old people stuff.
Yeah. So some good clues to it. Usually the family knows, but some things to watch for is wall or furniture walking. You know that the person is going from the back of the couch to the counter, and you notice them like kind of planning their movements based on the next thing they're going to anchor onto. They need to get a walker. I've had clients, so our store is designed to try to help remove some of that and see the colors and the different models and try them and feel the difference. But I've had clients that that's not enough either, and they've bought in product for mom or dad and left them alone with it in the room, and they use it when no one's watching and experience the difference that they feel in their stability, and to help them kind of like begin to integrate to use it outside. That's worked a couple times. I remember the client that was they were just always using the office chair. You know, they're like rolling the office chair all through the house and they refused to use a walker. And then they finally just like left the walker in the office and eventually he used it. But it can be hard. I try to talk to families about maintaining the quality of life and the things that they love to do because at the end of the day, these products keep the door open for being able to maintain your favorite activities like your church, your friends, your travel. And I had a client who was a big, strong man and he was a service member and he was really big in his community. He'd always go to his coffee shop and he did use a rollator, but then came the day that that wasn't enough and he had to use a wheelchair and a power chair and he refused. So I watched his world shrink. His wife was my client too. So I saw them all the time. His wife was in a power chair and we'd go fix her chair and talk to him. And he doesn't need a power chair. He doesn't need it. And he was getting around his house, but he didn't realize that 2 years had gone by and he hadn't gone to the coffee shop.
Ugh.
And so he finally, she convinced him to finally get that power chair and to use it to go around their beautiful neighborhood, Kensington and San Diego. It's very walk friendly. And he got that power chair and he went down to that coffee shop 2 years later, and they still remembered his name, and he cried, and it makes me cry. He was so blown away that they remembered him as he kinda had, let himself think that it didn't matter to him, that he was fine because he didn't wanna use that equipment. So when he turned that page, he got his life back. He could go do that stuff again.
How how do people look? You're in San Diego, right? But this is for everybody across the country and in other countries as well. I have to assume small town, rural, smaller city than San Diego probably don't have these. Maybe I'm wrong, but I
Mhm.
don't. You only once you look for something, then you see it a million times. So I've never driven through my community and looked for something like yours,
Yeah.
and maybe they're there. But if I'm right that they're not, or they're not there, in suburban or rural America, I'm guessing people are buying this stuff online,
Yeah.
if they're buying it at all, and or they're buying it from durable medical equipment shops that, to your point earlier in the show, which is like, yeah, okay, you could buy a bed, but who's coming into the house to do these assessments, and can you go to these showrooms and kind of like, okay, what does this all look like before I end up just clicking all over the internet and trying to find something for mom or find something for my house? What's your guidance around this, for people that aren't in San Diego that can come down and see you?
Yeah. There are not a lot of places that are as show and tell and as robust as Harmony is. But there are places. So the first would be to Google medical supply near me and see what comes up. A lot of them are the traditional model where it's very rickety feeling and they bill Medicare and they carry, because they bill Medicare, they carry like really bad equipment because Medicare allowables, unfortunately, have been cut 42% since I started, and the cost of equipment has probably gone up 42%. So it's very difficult to buy something nice with Medicare allowables. However, you can work with a company like Harmony, or if you have one in your area that's willing to do this, to buy the nice things and then you submit your receipt with the billable codes, the HCPC codes, to Medicare to have them reimburse you directly for what they do pay. So, say you buy the $800 really light wheelchair you can take with you, and Medicare will pay you back $300 for the basic one they cover. At least it's something. But yeah, so I would start first with looking who's in your area. But if there's not a good provider or not anyone who's super versed in helping you age better, then go onto the internet, go on to our website and go onto our YouTubes, and you can educate yourself a little bit there and call. Call in. There's Harmony, there's Spin Life, there's MedMart. These are online dealers. 'Cause we have a full online store as well. These are online dealers that sell nationwide that have some support. I like to believe that our company has more and will go further to do a virtual on FaceTime assessment and so forth.
Oh,
We
look
have
at
that
that.
on
I
our
didn't even think
website.
about that. You can do that, huh?
Yeah, I've done
Oh, cool.
virtuals on FaceTime and gone to people's house that way. Um, but I know that both of those other companies I mentioned have a lot more support than doing something like Amazon or Walmart or just being on your own. Because that's what a lot of people do, is they'll go and try to figure it out, and they'll do an Amazon or Walmart because 'cause they're looking for price point. But then they end up getting a product that even though they have a good return policy, nobody is boxing up a full-size wheelchair and sending it back, or a power chair. I get a lot of people, ask me to buy equipment, and if we didn't sell it, we don't buy it back. We have a lot of, used fleet because we do buy back equipment from our clients because people pass and they no longer need it, and it helps the next person save money. But a lot of people are looking to get rid of medical equipment that they just made a mistake on. So I would say work with a company in person or online, but that has phone and sales support that will talk to you, and they'll be able to give you guidance. If they don't ever ask your height and weight of the end user, run the other way. Like, make sure that they're considering the person's size as a minimum of considerations, and then asking about environment is a good sign that they're, giving you the whole picture and giving you good advice.
Thank you. I didn't even think about that. That's really cool that somebody can take you on a virtual
Mhm.
um a virtual tour of the house. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it makes sense. I didn't think about it. That's awesome that you and others do that.
Yeah,
That's a lot better than just trying to do it yourself. Like, I mean, if I was thinking about my mom, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know, like, well, if she's, I don't know, I'm making this up. If she's got a cane that she bought at CVS, should I what does that mean? Do I need to cane proof the home? Yeah, and then who's gonna help me think about this? What is it, I wouldn't even know where to start.
yeah. When it comes to looking at the home, I would recommend to everyone to just only look at it for eyes of using wheeled mobility. Because, again,
Okay.
we don't want to do it twice, and there's very little variance between, cane and walker. Sometimes a small threshold can be easier to do with a walker, just step it down and walk on, than a ramp like it would for a wheelchair. That's probably the only distinction, though, in home accessibility between cane, walker versus wheelchair. So I would look
Interesting.
at your home as if you're going to use a wheelchair in it, and that means your doorway widths, your thresholds and steps, your transfer areas, having enough room next to them. If you're gonna consider accessibility, just consider it for the final stage because that will meet the need for all the stages.
Really good advice. And I want to ask a couple more questions, but I want to segment really quickly into something we haven't talked about, and that is dementia. And hundreds of different types of dementia. I think I'm gonna mess this up, but I think it's 1 out of 3 are projected to have some sort of dementia over time.
Yeah.
Is there, or what specifically about dementia related conditions do people have to think about their homes as well?
Yeah. One thing is the earlier the better applies to this cohort of people more than anybody else because the short term memory and the doing new kinds of tasks, so using new equipment, doing a new bathing process, like getting into the shower differently, all of that is harder the further along that you are with dementia, even if that product's helpful. I've had clients with dementia who just cannot cognitively remember how to use their walker, even though they need it. So the earlier you introduce it and how it functions, and they can put that into their longer term memory and log that, the better. So the earlier the better with that one. Um, and then the accessible design, another word for it is universal design. So doing these things that just make your spaces easier to use for everyone will very much apply to people with dementia. Just making it so there's less to trip over, less to consider, cleaner, more open spaces, um, your handholds in all the right places, grab bars, handrails, these things early on again so they know that they're there and they're easy to use. It's simple and easy for everyone. But then beyond the doing it early and making it universal is dementia is hard, and it gets into the monitoring and the constant care when it hits a certain stage. And they can be physically completely capable and not really need mobility equipment, but cognitively unable to remember to eat, bathe, dress. And those kind of circumstances, equipment can only go so far. And it's more about the caregiving resources, the either every state is different, but the covered in California, if you are taking care of someone full time, we do have IHSS, which is a Medicaid program that would pay a loved one to be the caregiver. But you have to restructure your assets and all of your finances to convert yourself into Medicaid to be able to get that. And we do have some respite care services from Alzheimer's Association to let the caregiver get some breaks. And we have a wonderful program um, with the Glenner Center and their adult daycare programs where they have these throwback environments, 1950s soda club and the old cars, and they can go there and have a good time with others. A lot of people resist that adult daycare programs. The patient resists it, the family resists it, but I would say stay open and check some of them out. Some of them are just lovely and a godsend to offset some of the care cost because 24/7 caregiving is impossibly unaffordable for most. Um, at a certain stage of dementia, the care becomes the bigger component than the equipment and the accessibility.
Thank you for that. I want to ask a couple more questions around planning ahead versus waiting too long. And I'm going to take it 2 questions. First is going to be caregiver, and then the second is self. For the caregiver who is noticing these things and whose parent or parents haven't, um, and their parents are saying this doesn't apply to me yet, what would you want the caregiver to know, and how would that caregiver best bring it up without offending mom or dad, and if mom or dad poo-poos it for the first 2 times that gets brought up, or the first 15, or the first
Yeah.
2 months, or the first 15 months, like what, you've done this thousands of times, what are the best ways caregivers can get in here for their parents that think, yeah, this doesn't apply to me yet, I'm fine?
Yeah, I would do that. Keep trying. Approach the conversation in different ways. And sometimes when it's our loved ones that we're really close with, they don't look at us the same or they don't be as receptive as if they as a third party. So sometimes it can be effective to have a third party. And there's a wonderful role or industry that kind of has bloomed in the last decade of private duty care managers. And those are people who have a nursing background. They may have employees that may are not all nurses, but most of them are um, nurse care managers that do concierge care, kind of a triage of care. They'll advocate for you at the doctor's office. They'll translate all those medical notes, make sure your medication management is aligned because a lot of times the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand in hospital settings, and this doctor won't check with that doctor if the medicines have contraindications. So there's this person, and when you're not present too, they're kind of like the adult child that can be there to advocate and care. So using one of those educated, caring kind of third parties could be a great way to introduce the need a little bit more, and it could be just on a consultative basis. Just one time coming in and looking at the situation. Another one that has budded a lot is these private OTs that are doing like private home assessments and things that we do, but charging a little bit more and going a little deeper with some clinical side of it. And again, it just sounds more professional, more true when it comes from that authoritative person. So that could be one way. And then trying the different angles of the love, care, concern, and then if it's not working, then about mom, I need this, or dad, from you for me because this is driving me crazy that I don't know, or this is concerning me and stressing me. I'm worried. So, different approaches speaking to different needs and emotions of that person and seeing if one of those work. So, and then coupling that with somebody else. It's crazy how much our clients listen to their doctors, even their doctors sometimes, like with equipment and stuff and accessibility. Sometimes they have no idea what they're talking about. They're like, I wrote the prescription, so Medicare covers a lift chair. Go tell them that. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. But they swear because their doctor said. So sometimes if
Right.
the family member could activate the physician to let them know, that's a very authoritative figure in their eyes. So it may open them up even more.
Okay, so thank you, and very comprehensive answer, and that helps. So let's talk about the person in their 50s, maybe just 60s, 70s, and you mentioned this earlier in the show in terms of your the rehab schedule of someone living in their home is normally 7, 10, 15 years anyway on kind of freshening the place up. So if someone's listening or watching that's healthy, active, and they're thinking this doesn't apply to me yet, what would you want them to know?
Well, I would want them to know that it's something you can change at any time. This is kind of a negative thing to share, but this is fact. The clients that we are seeing with ALS and Parkinson's keep getting younger. I have a 39-year-old ALS patient this year. Um, so things can happen at any time. We don't know. Stroke is very real for active working adults like us who are carrying a lot of stress. As caregivers, I've seen this too, the adult child that's working and getting their kids off into the world, and then all of a sudden they're taking care of mom and dad and they're still full time, are under major stress, which is a precursor to having a stroke. So we want to stay happy or healthy and active, and by all means, what we do, hopefully we do. But preparation can, what is the saying? Like a pinch of preparation is equals a pound of or pinch of prevention is a pound of something. I'm sorry, I'm terrible. I'm totally
No, no,
blew
I'm
that one.
with you. I was going penny wise, pound foolish, or is it penny?
But a little bit of
We all know
preparation.
what we both mean.
Yeah. A little bit of preparation in the beginning can go a really long ways. So I would say that if you are active, healthy adult, but you are going to put some money into your house and remodel your home, that you should Google up some or Etsy up some images of zero transition shower. European wet room. The first the first mainstream accessible shower I, saw as a guest, because you have to ask for these ADA showers in hotels, and now I don't wanna politicize the show because this guy's ooh, but it was the Trump Towers. It was like a decade plus ago when it wasn't really popular here, but it was in Europe, and every room had the beautiful, of course, gold plated, linear drain. Is a French drain, frameless glass doors. I mean, it's beautiful. And your plumbing costs you about 500 more in parts and maybe 1,000 labor to do it that way. But I would say, look at some of those images and see what you like and see what you can imagine being in your space and adopt it. Do it. Do it now, especially in the bathroom. Why not? And then if you're gonna move, if you're gonna look at changing homes or your forever home, consider first floor living. Yeah, if you
Hmm.
buy a two-story house, make sure it has a guest room or an ensuite downstairs or something that you can modify um, to be able to do that, or stacked closets to easily put in an elevator. But you should absolutely consider that now because we never know the situations we'll be in. And again, universal design. We want to make it easier for us as we age, even if we don't have an impactful health circumstance. We want to make it easier for all. So yeah, I think the message is it's never too early, and we don't know what may happen. So if we're putting money into a remodel, just put some of the key accessibility things in there. The zero thresholds, good lighting, low slip floors.
Thank you. Two questions left I have for you. The first one is based on everything you see, and you just mentioned, the 39-year-old, right?
Yeah,
The stroke, and probably like people watching or listening, some names and faces flash in front of their eyes, and they know who you're talking about in their worlds. Yet, right, people are living longer, people are being more active, right? My generation, Gen X, I think there's a popular Instagram feed, which is like Gen X is age 45 to 65 at this point, and every one of them still thinks
yeah,
they're 35.
yeah. It's
Yeah, that's probably true. And we're still running around on bikes and taking care of mom and dad as well. What gives you hope about how people are aging today and aging in their home?
oh, so much. But this is not really my industry of harmony, but something I'm personally very into, and that is some of this biohacking, new neuroscience discoveries. I'm very excited about what's coming through in gene-based therapies for the treatment of ALS and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Um, and some of the combining that with pharmaceuticals. I'm kind of an anti-pharmaceuticals industry person, because I feel like they're making money on keeping us sick. Um, but there's science that's coming so fast and so, clear that I think it'll be undeniable, kind of like when the marijuana industry butted and, there's the powers that be, pharmaceuticals wanna keep it down, but the benefits of it were too vast and, for everyone that they legalized. And so gene-based therapy to me seems kind of like that, where they're able to change gene expression and figure out why some people are getting Alzheimer's, figure out why people are getting ALS. I think we're really close to that. And in my home, just so you guys know what I am doing proactively for myself, I have a oxygen tank. I have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in my garage.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's
I I I
awesome.
I infrared sauna 3 or 4 days a week. I just bought a cold plunge, and the hot cold therapy is the hormesis. It's a little bit of a cellular death, cellular challenge to make the weakest ones in your body die off. Because as we're living longer, our bodies and stuff can hold up, but it's some of these genes that are getting changed, and some of the weaker, broken cells duplicating themselves that are causing disease. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I don't say it all correctly, but I've read a lot about it, and I go to Longevity Fest in Vegas each year. Such a fun event in December. And, there's a lot coming our way that is a little more nature-based. It's getting our own pharmaceutical central here in our body, to help fight some of the neurological and, illnesses that we get that are hurting us as we're getting older. 'Cause, physically, like, we're seeing we can live longer and we can live better, but we have to avoid cancer, dementia, Parkinson's, ALS, and MS, these types of diseases. So, I think that's, like, the gateway to our optimal healthy health span and lifespan aligning. I think we're very close to being able to really understand that in the next decade. So, I'm
That's
hopeful
that's
for
ins
that.
that's inspiring, thank you. Last one, how can people find you, all your educational content, and learn more about Harmony Home Medical? And I know it's San Diego, but,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
Southern
mentioned some
California.
companies or some other places that people can go if they're not around San Diego, that would be super helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we're in San Diego, harmonyhomemedical.com. That's our website. Lots of product education on there. And then on our YouTube channel, I had done a lot of stuff. I'll start again. We are starting again now to do more product description and launching because YouTube has a ton of great information. But I've tried to make things like what's the difference between these beds? How do I use a patient lift and showing like how to roll someone and the nitty-gritty that is a little bit harder to find on the internet. So our YouTube is a great place and other people's YouTubes are a great place. And then as far as not us out there in the world, AARP has been doing a really good job of getting together resources and education and having a platform for that. Spin Life is a national medical equipment seller, but I would say call us first. We're more personal and more customized. But both of them and us and even Medmart, they haven't done their phone service, but I believe they have it. All of those would be better options than an Amazon or a Walmart. There's too much of buying product or carrying product that has built in what is the word? Just like built in obsolescence where
Mm.
um it's only built to last so long and so that you buy it and it breaks and instead of saying come in we'll put a new tire on it, they should just buy a new one. That's kind of the product line that you're seeing at the Walmarts of the world. It's the lower cost one, and it's the bigger price tag for the planet when you just throw it away in a year versus be able to replace it with a $40 wheel or a handbrake. So, the brands out there to look more towards are not Drive, um, and McKesson and those, it's Nova. Nova is a great manufacturer that builds basic products to last that you can buy across the country. Um, Strong back wheelchairs, eye care beds. You can look on our page and see some of the products that are on there. We really try to evaluate for value, not just price point. So buying something, maybe it's a little bit more the first time, but you're going to buy it once. And that's better for you and it's better for the planet.
Erica, this has been incredibly helpful. Thank you. And what I really liked about our conversation is that it reminds people that aging well isn't about just reacting to emergencies, but it's making thoughtful decisions early,
Yeah.
right? That protect independence, they reduce stress on families and support better health over time. And those are the kind of choices that quietly preserve not just safety, but also dignity. And then they ripple into every part of your life, especially in families, from physical well being to even peace of mind and long term financial stability. This stuff isn't cheap, but to your last point, it's value over cheapness for a lot of reasons. Um,
Yeah.
and you've got to think about it early. What are the opportunity costs of not spending the $15,000, which seems like a lot, and it is compared to having to move to a assisted living facility a year earlier at 10 grand a month.
Exactly.
People have to think about this not just in its old, I have to buy something it's really just buying something that will fit your life and long term, but also the repercussions or the opportunity cost of not doing that also has a price tag, and I think a lot of people probably don't think about that. So thanks for bringing that up, and thanks for all the work that you do, and thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I love talking about this stuff, and it is really important. I see seniors every day, so I look at it a little differently from my life, and I want to communicate that out to the world because most people aren't working in the senior industry, so you don't think of yourself as getting older that often, but we all are going to. We're all going to go there, and it's better to go there with ease and grace and some fun than some crisis.
Agree 100%. And everybody watching or listening, you're making a smart move by thinking about these things before you're forced to. Just listen to what Erica said and follow her prescription. Decisions like this shape your health, your finances, and the quality of the years ahead. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of this community focused on living with wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Until next time, I'm Matt Feret.
Thanks for joining me on the Matt Feret Show. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it with a friend and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're on Apple or Spotify, a quick rating or review really helps more people discover the show. For more resources, visit themattferretshow.com and sign up for the Matt Feret newsletter. And if you or someone you care for needs Medicare guidance, book a no-obligation consultation at brickhouseagency.com. Helping people make smarter choices as they age is my passion. This show is here to light the path towards your wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Thanks for being a part of the conversation.
The Matt Feret Show, related content, publications, and MF Media LLC is in no way associated, endorsed, or authorized by any governmental agency, including the Social Security Administration, the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The Matt Feret Show is in no way associated with, authorized, approved, endorsed, nor in any way affiliated with any company, trademark names, or other marks mentioned or referenced in or on The Matt Feret Show. Any such mention is for purpose of reference only. Any advice, generalized statistics, or opinions expressed are strictly those of the host and guests of The Matt Feret Show. Although every effort has been made to ensure the contents of The Matt Feret Show and related content are correct and complete, laws and regulations change quickly and often. The ideas and opinions expressed on The Matt Feret Show aren't meant to replace the sage advice of healthcare, insurance, financial planning, accounting, or legal professionals. You are responsible for your financial decisions. It is your sole responsibility to independently evaluate the accuracy, correctness, or completeness of the content, services, and products of, and associated with, The Matt Feret Show, MF Media LLC, and any related content or publications. The thoughts and opinions expressed on The Matt Feret Show are those of the host and The Matt Feret Show guests only, and are not the thoughts and opinions of any current or former employer of the host or guests of The Matt Feret Show, nor is The Matt Feret Show made by, on behalf of, or endorsed or approved by any current or former employer of the host or guests of The Matt Feret Show.